Hi, it's Alaska Granny. We know that it's important to have a nice stockpile of food so we can make meals for our family, but sometimes it can seem complicated. Where do I begin? What are some good foods to stockpile? Well, I thought I would share with you today some of my favorite prepper pantry foods, the ones that I like to make sure that I always have in my stockpile. My favorite pantry items are open and eat foods that are fully prepared. You can open and eat them, whether they're in a can, they're in a pouch, they're in a bowl. Foods that you can open and eat, they're already cooked. If you can't heat them up, it doesn't matter. You can just tear open your package, open a can, get a spoon, and have a meal. It may not be the most delicious meal you've ever had, but it gives you something to eat so that you can move forward. Eating a meal is about sustaining ourselves, keeping our energy up, keeping our tummies filled. It doesn't have to be the most wonderful meal that you've ever had every single meal of every single day. So having something to eat to help you get going is the purpose of having a prepper pantry. Look at canned foods like chili and ravioli. Look at little package meals like the Hormel Completes. I've noticed lately they cost more and the variety is very limited. They don't have anywhere near the variety that they used to have when I began buying these a few years ago. You can find a wide variety of meals in pouches, and if you have certain dietary desires or food allergies, the most important thing about food storage is figuring out what foods you like, what foods you're willing to eat, what meets your needs, and those are the foods that you should be stockpiling. But you need to be thinking about it and planning ahead. My next favorite pantry items are foods that you can easily cook a little bit, combine, and make a meal. Maybe you want to have a jar of sauce and a box of pasta noodles. I stock up on boxes of macaroni and cheese, suddenly salad, pastaroni, stuffing mixes, and I take them out of their cardboard packages and I put them into clean canning jars. The food lasts far longer in your pantry in an airtight container than it would in a plastic wrapper or a cardboard box. You want to keep your food safe, not just from the air and moisture, but also from critters. Pantry bugs can be a problem, and you can avoid them if you store your food in an airtight container. Already prepared food, something like a can of soup, serve it with some rice. Serve it over some mashed potatoes. Serve it over some pasta. Look for cans of beef stew. Make your meal go farther. Serve it over a can of potatoes. Mixed vegetables, different types of ways that you can put things together. I like to have cans of beans. You can take something as simple as a can of beans and add some spices. Serve it over rice, right out of your pantry with barely any cooking. There are lots of ways to combine canned beans and make meals. It's also great to have cans of tomatoes on hand. There are endless ways to use canned tomatoes and canned tomato products, so make sure that you have a large variety of those in your prepper pantry. I also like to have a variety of canned meats. You can make a box of noodles, add in a can of meat, serve it with a can of vegetables, and you have a complete meal right out of your pantry with hardly any effort. Macaroni and cheese, you can mix practically anything in macaroni and cheese. Pepperoni, hot dogs, a can of spicy tomatoes. There are all kinds of ways that you can combine your prepper pantry shelf-stable foods into inexpensive, easy-to-make meals that can keep you going. So when you're shopping for food, make sure you're thinking about, what can I do with this? How can I make it a meal? Don't just buy random foods. Think about ways that either I'm going to eat this all by itself, or there are different ways and things I can combine with it to have a tasty meal. Figure out what are your favorite pantry items that you can, number one, open and eat and have a selection of those, and number two, that you can combine together with a little bit of cooking and make some meals. Next, you want to look at the longest lasting foods, and you want to have a nice supply. So if there's a long-term emergency or a long-term shortage, you're still going to be able to make meals for your family. You want to have dried beans, rice, things like oatmeal, dried pastas. Those are foods that you can seal away in a bucket, in a Mylar bag, in a clean canning jar. You can seal up these foods and have them last for a long, long time. Get a wide variety of seasonings. Figure out what are your flavors and think about different cuisines and what simple ingredients change the flavors of basic foods. The basic ingredients can be the same. It's the seasoning that gives variety and helps your food be more interesting and keep you from getting food fatigue. That's a strategy that I use to find my favorite pantry items, but you want to think over what you like to eat, what your family is willing to eat, your favorite meals, and then you should find them in those categories too. Open and eat foods, foods that you can combine together, and the longest lasting dried foods to store for the longest term emergencies. If you enjoyed my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else you think might like it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.